And speaking of carp, and because we have royalty in the house tonight,
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
exactly, let's not take any more time. Our next guest, or first guest, I guess we could call him, is a man by the name of Ross Honey. Now, we've had Ross on a radio program several times. In fact, we worked with Ross live, both in the UK and in North America. He is the owner of Angling Spirit in Hampshire, England, UK. He organizes and stages international angling events all around Europe and is closing in on North America. I'm sure he'll have a thing or two to say about that. He is the founder and owner of the World Carp Classic tournament, which started in 1998, arguably the largest international, maybe global angling event on the planet. Welcome to the program, Ross. How are you, buddy?
Well, thank you very much. It's great to see you guys again. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, both on the stream here and personally, as we've been over the years.
Thank you, sir. Now, really quick, before Angelo, is the World Carp Classic the biggest fishing event in the world that you know of, Ross? That'd be a great question.
It's certainly the longest running carp fishing event of its kind in the world. I mean, I set it up in 1998. And we've had over 45 countries participate in the event to date. And in fact, the event we've just run, we had 103 countries that actually clicked on and were following it. So 103 countries from around the world.
Watching. Okay.
Awesome. The reason I keep saying the biggest, because I've looked into it, and there's no other fishing event that draws so many countries to participate. I mean, there's bill fishing events.
That's what I was thinking, is bill fishing. You know what I mean? But not even
not
close.
That big. No, they're not that big. So, and in terms of the scope of the event, one only needs to see one time in their life to know if there's anything bigger. Man, oh man, it's
show us where it is, because it would be pretty impressive if it was bigger. The parade alone, like that parade alone that they have at the World Cup, is like, it's unreal. You know, it's shivers.
What we did this year is actually really cool, because normally we'd have the parade with everybody holding their flags. We have like 300 or 400 people holding their national flags and everything. That's always quite a grand, very kind of exciting moment, because everybody's very proud of their countries that they're representing. But because of COVID this year, we had to think slightly outside the box and obviously make sure that social distancing was respected. So what we did this year, just to be different, to make sure the flag parade did take place, we did it in the cars. So all the teams were actually in their cars. We had anglers on top of the cars. They had inflatable boats. There were flags going everywhere. So you can imagine like 150 cars going down with all these flags. It was just amazing, honking the horns and tooting, and it was really something quite spectacular.
So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in that I want to talk to you about leading up to this year's event. I mean, obviously the rest of the world, for the most part, has gone into shutdown regarding events, especially events where you're drawing more than 50 people. Talk to us about the process. How did you navigate through this crazy period that we're having before you had the event?
Well, to be frank, I mean, as I said earlier on, this is probably one of the hardest events we've actually staged on so many different levels. Because in the first instance, we're running an event in the middle of a nature reserve in France. It's in a different country to the one we currently live in. At the time when the event was launched, we had just under 30 countries that were due to participate, literally ranging from Canada right the way through to Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Russia, Ukraine, you name it, literally the whole world was included in this. And obviously with COVID and the challenges we ran into there, we had to knock that back. So all the countries that were due to travel long haul, their places have been secured in the 2021 event. So we effectively had the European countries there. But we had 18 countries represented with over 300 anglers competing. But we didn't have a book that said you can do this and you can't do that. There were no real guidelines. So we had to set about actually establishing the COVID guidelines that we were to apply and to incorporate for the World Carp Classic this year. And that turned out to be a 60-page document with everything literally going from the registration process, when people arrived, where the bivvies were, where they had to get the campsite set up, then right the way through to the opening parade, the peg draw, how that was to be done, and we did that. So again, to ensure everybody was in their bubble and in their group, anglers for the peg draw, they were actually in their cars. So we did that live. So I had two people on stage. So drawing the peg, I'd then read it out. They would then go and place it on the chart to reaffirm that, and then we'd go through that process. And then ordinarily on the Sunday, which is when we do the peg draw, anglers would stay around and then still party on Sunday evening. But what we did this year is we then took anglers directly to their pegs. So you can imagine the logistics of moving. We've got out of the 106 pegs we've got that we use for the competition, probably 65% of those require anglers to be transported with all their equipment to islands and different places around the lake. It's a huge lake that we use. So the logistics in that all had to be taken into account to make sure the COVID rules were fully applied for that.
Wow.
So then, having, of course, got the anglers to the pegs, then the competition starts, then the fish start to get caught. Even in terms of how the whole weighing process of how the fish are weighed, who touches what, and then to make sure that anglers had to maintain their masks on at all times, if there were teams of 3, even if within the bubble that they had for the photograph. So it was really, really strictly applied. And then subsequently, the angler that had caught the fish, the other 2 anglers went away, and then they were able to take their mask off and have the trophy shot with the fish prior to it being released. They then had to put their mask back on and then go back ashore. So we really had to take this to the nth degree to make sure that this has been properly done.
Ross, was there a time where this event was in fact going to be canceled?
Actually, yeah. I mean, on quite a few occasions, and the reason for that being is the easiest thing for me to have done is say, guys, hands up, we're not running it this year. We'll run it next year. We'll wait for COVID to pass. But I personally took the view that the desire was so overwhelming from the anglers that wanted to compete to be part of this special occasion that it made me very determined that if we had the ability to put it on and we could do it safely, then we should do. And to lead again and pioneer a way forward to say, look, okay, this is how we do this. This is how we can run an event with COVID still around, but to do it responsibly and safely.
Did anybody, you said from Europe, did anybody fly in to the area, or did they all drive? Was it very easy to have everybody in cars to get there?
The majority of people drove. There were a couple of people that flew and then hired cars, but the majority of people drove this year.
Having been involved in the things that you do, Ross, they're so social. I mean, the whole thing about carp fishing, about the World Carp Cup, the whole, everything just oozes with camaraderie and kinship and fellowship, and I can't even imagine how you pull this thing off by having social distancing. I mean, that to me is just wow.
Even to the extent, one of the things we pride ourselves with is we have an opening banquet, and it is a proper banquet with wonderful food and everything there. And this year we did literally everything outside. Everything was done outside. The whole process of all this has been phenomenal.
We've got it written here. The first prize was, where do we see it, Ange? It was
162.5 pounds.
162.5 pounds for 3 fish. Is that correct?
Yeah, 3 fish, yeah.
Oh my God! Like what is this lake capable of producing? Was the biggest fish in that bag, or was there another team that had the biggest fish?
No. In fact, those guys didn't actually catch the biggest fish. The biggest fish that was caught from a totally different part of the lake as well, and that was 29.3 kilos. Which actually, by the way, thankfully I've got a calculator here. So let me do a quick bit of mathematics. So 29.3 times 2.2. 65 pounds.
Oh my God!
That was one fish, and so there are fish in this lake over 70 pounds carp. So anybody that thinks that catching carp isn't a sport fish, I can tell you, hang on to one of them, and you just hang on. I tell you, you could connect a couple of water skis behind it, and you're off.
Was that? Are they mostly mirror carp there, Ross, or are they commons, or both, or like that big a fish? Is that what species is that?
That one was a mirror. There are common carp in the lake, but there are also leather carp and linears as well. There's a 65-pound linear in that lake, which is a perfect scale pattern right the way down the middle. It's a perfect linear. So there's a huge fish in there.
You talk about sport fish here in this part of the world, predominantly common, although we do have some mirror. But our fish are insane. These wild fish that we have here, they're insane. You get even a 10-pounder on the line here, it rivals just about any sport fishing that we have.
Sure.
In terms of speed, strength. These things jump. They spend more time out of the water than they do in the water during a fight. They're insane. Just a great fishery, and that's why. That's why we've been fighting. Pete and I have been fighting for years now to get people to recognize the fact that, maybe the perception was that at one point that this was a we'll call it a garbage fish because that's kind of the label that it had.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago, and things have evolved and changed. And this fish needs to be elevated to the level that it deserves. Because
as a matter of fact, in our regulations, Ross, in the fishing regulations, just not only is it not a game fish, then there's no limit. If you were to catch them, you could catch 100, 200 if you wanted, kill them if you wanted. But they also have a bow fishing season for them. That's in
right.
The only fishing season we have for carp is bow and arrow.
Right. Okay.
Like figure that one out. Like that's just I mean, over there in Europe, you guys would go insane if you saw that. I'm sure.
Well, the thing is, I mean, when you look at the fish welfare and best practice angling that we apply as part of the rules, you can get banned from life if you mistreat the carp over here within the competition that we're running.
Right.
We've got the flotation mats that they sit on. I mean, when you think that even over here, some of these carp are named, they've got a proper, they've got a name, and they get kissed and everything, they get put back, and it's different. It is very different.
I don't think I've ever asked you this in the number of times that we've worked together and I've interviewed you. Where did this all start for you? Was it just from the sheer love of the sport, or did it start as a business? Like, where did this whole carp empire come from?
That's a really good question. Well, I mean, the answer to that is not exactly a short one, but I'll try and keep it that way. In 1997, at the end of 97, 98, I'd been working for a company which was a shipping company called Brittany Ferries. With ships going between England and France and over to Caen and the D-Day landing beaches and stuff over there. And I left Brittany Ferries to set up my own business. And the two things I love to do were play golf and go fishing. And I was involved in the marketing, the development side of Brittany Ferries, and had developed a golf program for them. So when I left, I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to set up a fishing event and a golf event. That's what I like. Why not? So I looked around. I thought, well, look, there's I always like to have ideas and not just think about them, but to actually do them. But so I thought, right, golf tournaments. I want to set up the world's largest golf tournament of its kind. So what actually is that? So I set up a club tournament called the International Pairs. And in a 3-year period, took it from the original inception. Bear in mind, at the same time as setting up the World Carp Classic, and I took that from its the original idea to having 43 countries participate in it, with world finals in Scotland at Carnoustie, Glen Eagles, all the main championship courses, and over 3,000 events a year. But my target was to get a million golfers to physically play in that tournament, and that took me just over 3 years to achieve. So you can imagine going round to these wonderful 5-star golf courses, some of the best golf courses on the planet, and I'd set up a fishing event as well. So people are asking, what on earth are you setting up a fishing event? And but the first one I set up was one by which I wasn't quite sure which way to go in terms of events. So I thought, right, I'll organise a general fishing event. So I took 140 people to France. I knew the lakes over there anyway. There's pleasure fishing. There's match fishing, where they're all there with the match rods and stuff. Then specimen angling, and
what is specimen angling?
Well, for big fish, like they're targeting big fish.
Okay.
So off I trotted over to France. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was blowing a gale like a hoolie. I was there on my own, and I had 140 people. So I stood by the fence of the gate. So, right, you are, okay, who are you? You are pleasure angler, right? You go over there. Okay, your hotel's there. Right, you are match angler. Match angler's over there. And anyway, all the match anglers are all lined up and stuff. Specimen angler, all right, you go over there. That's fine. Find somebody to fish, and we'll see in a couple of days. So anyway, what was hilarious is the wind was blowing straight in the match fishermen's faces. They might as well have been fishing in the car park because they couldn't even keep their rod down. It was hilarious. The pleasure anglers moaned like flipping hell because their hotel was a bit too far from the lake, and it was windy, it was wet. And, oh dear, it was a nightmare. But there were these guys called specimen anglers, and somebody said, "Oh, we heard somebody's caught a fish over there." Oh, great! So anyway, I went round to see them, and they had taken their own tents and stuff. They didn't require accommodation. They fed themselves. They were all happy, really pleasant people. Whereas the other guys were a little bit iffy and weren't overly happy by my organisation of what I put together. And I had a letter from one of the guys that had been on this fishing trip I'd organised. And he said, "Look, Ross, it was a really, really good event. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Myself and the other specimen anglers had a really good time. We caught a nice carp. One of us caught a carp. But when you organise the next event?" So I scratched my head. I thought, hang on. They were really nice about it, and I had a phone call as well. I thought, well, do you know what? So I looked around. Carp. Huh? That definitely was a carp. Yeah, that's fine. What carp events are there around? Looked, and there weren't any. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to organise a world championship for carp fishing.
Wow!
And that in 1998, I got the map out at home, and I looked at the map and looked in France. Well, there's a big blue bit. That's a lake. Let me drive to that lake and see what it's like. So that's exactly what I did. Drove to the lake. Said, unfortunately, I speak French. So I said, "Hello, my name's Ross Honey. I'm wanting to organise a world championship carp fishing event here." And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, what the hell is this guy on about? Carp fishing event? Yeah, I'm going to get people from all over the world to come here and do this and do that. And yeah, it's fine. So anyway, off I went back to the UK, having made contact with this lake and maintained contact with them, and set about setting up the World Carp Classic. And I managed to convince Rover to give me a car to give away as a prize, which in 1998, there was no other competition in the world of carp fishing, full stop, in Europe anyway, that had given a car away as a prize, let alone for carp fishing. So that's what happened. And we got, in the first year, we had 146 anglers compete. And it was incredible to see the buzz and the emotion, and I knew it was something special that we'd found. And so from that, I continued to develop that over the years to where we are today.
What a great story, man. It's funny because you can ask any organizer of events like that, and they all started much like you did. You know, it
Yeah.
was one of those things. Hey, you know what? Why not do it? And next thing you know, it just blossoms. Of course, today it's the holy grail. Like if you're into carp fishing and you're not fishing the World Carp Classic, then you're really not into carp fishing. And
Yeah.
that's what it's become. It's
Well,
unbelievable.
you think about our little event, Fishing Canada Carp Cup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to win that before you get a chance to go over and fish Ross's event. You know what I mean? Now ours is the first of its kind here too, but there are some, there's some small tournaments around and all that stuff. But I mean, you got to get there. You got to earn your way to the big show for sure.
And as we know from the last event we held, that's not easy because it's very competitive. It goes right down to the wire. The last, 5 minutes, ounces. Even though they're weighing hundreds of pounds of fish, it's down to the last ounce, right?
I would love to have one of our Canadian teams go over there, even if they didn't win. I'd like to have our guys weigh in 3 fish for 165 pounds, just to see when they go back with the stories they'd say, because that would be incredible to hear. You know what I mean? It would be so awesome.
Ross, tell us about the winning team. Where are they from, and what sort of experience did they have? Are they regulars on the tour?
Yeah, well, the team this year they actually won there from Poland, but what was quite remarkable about them is they caught 2 fish in the first night within 5 minutes of each other, but the size of those fish were huge. So they took a lead on day one. They then caught the rules that we've got. We count the 3 biggest fish. So even if you catch 20 fish, it's only the combined weight of the 3 biggest ones that count. So they then caught the 3rd fish, which then took them right up to the top of the leaderboard. But given the rules of this competition that I introduced just over 7 years ago, where it is the 3 biggest fish that count, what then happened was the other teams were catching closely. And within 24 hours to go, there was another team that caught exactly the same weight, the same gram. It was exactly the same weight. So for the last 24 hours of the competition this year, they had exactly the same weight. So the team in the lead were to see the nerves they had, it was just sensational. Yeah. So right at the end of the event, so of course, traditionally I will go up and I will finish the event from the unofficial winner's peg, which was the poles. So that's where they were. So I went up to unofficially announce, and they got excited. They jumped in the water and all the good and great. Oh, great! But literally, the rule that we've got is if a fish is hooked up until before the end of the event, they have 20 minutes to land it. So from 8 o'clock in the morning, which is when we finish the event, till 20 past 8, if anybody's hooked a fish, they have those 20 minutes to land it. After I'd just done all this great excitement, congratulations, guys.
Here we go.
Ross, there are 4 fish that have been caught within 5 to 10 minutes to go. So they're in the process of landing them. So please make sure the guys know it. They're the unofficial winners. Anyway, get this is an absolute climax of the whole thing. The first report of the first fish that came in was 28.3 kilos, the second biggest fish in the entire competition, just over 60 pounds. Now, that one fish, depending on who had caught it, could have meant somebody completely different had won the event. Somebody completely different. Wow. And I'd never been so relieved that the person that caught that one, it was their first fish. So, but no, it's just brilliant. Really, really, really good.
Great way to finish, though. That is pretty awesome.
On the 19th of October, the TV highlights will be released. So you'll be able to see that, and everybody will be able to have a look at that. But you'll see the drama, and you'll see how big these fish are, and the excitement. You'll see the parade, and what then happened, just to cap this thing off, in 22 years of running the event, we had 40 to 50 mile an hour winds blow at the end of the event. Now, bear in mind, we had to get nearly 100 people back to shore with these rubber boats, inflatable boats, piled high.
Wow.
My navigation skills were really pushed the limit. And, so we had a delayed prize giving, I have to say. But
that probably added to the whole thing, right? I mean, I can just imagine 40 kilometer winds and miles. I think it would kind of add to the whole ending. I think.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it meant I was freezing cold. I was wet, and I ended up doing the prize giving in Wellington boots and a rain. Yeah.
It added to it because I wasn't there. That's why.
Freezing my bits off. I can tell you that was really cold.
Good,
Ross. Not to change speeds here, but I wanted to ask you. I know that prior to the pandemic, prior to cancellations of a pile of different events in the fishing industry, you had been working on this thing called predator fishing.
Yeah.
In the U.S., especially, if I understand correctly, has this COVID-19 pushed all of that back? Like, what has it done to that?
Yeah.
And tell folks what it is.
Yeah, what it is again, linking in the knowledge I've got of golf. The biggest thing there is in golf is the Ryder Cup, where USA and North America take on Europe and the rest of the world. Yeah. And in 2014, I set my mind up to create the angling equivalent of that, by which a legitimate USA team and North American team took on the Europe and the rest of the world team in a head-to-head event. So initially, I created the European structure, which is now firmly in place, and we did the launch event in America just after ICAST, and the event itself is called the Angling Super Cup. So that's the event. But of course, the location we used and we were due to use for this year was in Florida at Big Lake Toho in Kissimmee, and that is right in the middle of where it's horrendous at the moment for COVID. So unfortunately, not only did we not run the first full-blown Angling Super Cup event in its full state, we had to postpone it, and 2021 is looking exactly the same.
Exactly.
There's no point in us trying to, I like to take on a challenge, and I'm not one to turn away from trying to make things happen, but this is it's too much. And so I mean, I think the earliest we could do that would be 2022.
Interesting. Well, it's good to put it on pause, though. That's a good thing, obviously, right? Safety first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any concerns about the event that you just held? Are you testing? Are any competitors testing for COVID afterwards, post event, or is that just sort of done now? It's behind us, and we move on.
No, not at all. I mean, one of the precautions that we took, not only did we have one of the world's leading COVID doctors on 24-hour standby, we had the hospital in Verdun, which is right near where the event took place. They were ready to receive people. We had temperature testing of everybody throughout the event, and we sent the 3 different media that have been there at the beginning of the event and going around and seeing different people filming as they had been. We sent them to the hospital to get tested, and that was done on the Friday afternoon, prior to the event finishing on Saturday morning, and they all came back tested negative. So there was that level of detail that we put into this, and making sure that if anybody up to another 2 or 3 more days became unwell, that we should be notified immediately, and all the precautions are in place thereafter.
Good for you.
Any advice to any would-be promoters of events? Any advice that you can give them moving forward as we wade through this dark time in our history?
Well, I think the thing is, to run events and run fishing events is definitely doable, without a shadow of a doubt. But you need to make sure all the different things are strictly applied, and do everything outdoors. We didn't do anything indoors. We had phenomenal sports halls that we normally decorate up and facilities. We didn't do any of that at all. So by making sure the events are run and all the registration, the whole processes are done outside, that's certainly a big step forward, and to make sure people do comply, and zero tolerance. If people don't comply, not only are they liable to mess it up for themselves and their families, but for everybody else there. So that's why zero tolerance is required.
Good stuff. Well done.
Well, to be congratulated, my friend. All the previous events were outstanding, but to actually pull one off during these times, man, hats off to you. Great job.
Absolutely.
And only one guy I know could have done it, and that's Ross Honey. So good work, my friend. I look forward to, at some point, anyways, it's got to happen. We got to be able to get together again. Certainly like to think that we're not done breaking bread.
No, absolutely not. And I tell you what, I really want to get something really good going on in Canada. So this has held us back a little bit, but it certainly hasn't stopped us. So far from it. We are very excited about actually coming across to Canada and doing something special over there with you guys.
Yes.
For those of you who might not know, we're working with Ross to see if we can't get some regulations changed in regards to the number of rods that are being used for carp fishing. And every time we take about 3 or 4 steps forward, there's a couple back. It's been going on for about 5-6 years now. But anyways, we will endeavor to keep up the good fight, my friend. And we'll keep you notified. Looking forward to that day happening, and looking forward to seeing more of this great carp fishing taking place in Europe. Ross, tell folks where they can get more information if they want to watch some of the stuff, if they can get more information on your association.
Well, if they go to the worldcarpclassic.com website, so worldcarpclassic.com or indeed Angling Spirit, either of those will take you through to where you can find out more. So we're Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those channels there. There's loads of information. And you know what? You can Google it. Google World Carp Classic.
There you go.
All right, my friend, go warm up. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you take care. Keep safe, guys, and looking forward to seeing you as soon as possible.
All right, Ross. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Ross Honey, he is the owner, promoter, founder of the World Carp Classic tournament, which, as I've said before, is the biggest deal on the planet.
In Canada, it sounds like nothing, right? To us, to the Canadians, probably say that's carp fishing. Whoa. Wait till it comes out, or even look at the old events. Wait till you see it on your computer screen or your iPad or something. It's unreal.